So the final major gardening skill that you need to know to be a successful gardener is how to start your own seeds. So you can get cell trays. These are never sink cell trays. I'll put a link to the video if you want to find more about cell trays and the different types. But if you're just getting started, I'd recommend just your standard 50 to 100 cell tray, and I'll put a link below for you guys. Bootstrap Farmer makes really high quality ones that'll last forever. So they have these individual holes where you're going to put the soil and then plant your seeds. We're just going to use the Kellogg's raised gardening bed mix because it has perlite, it has good nutrition, everything ready to go, and it's $10 a bag. So if you have that in your local area, that's a really great one. Or try to find another propagation mix that you could use. Or I've got a video about how you can make your own propagation mix if you have all the different raw ingredients. So we're just going to put our soil in. If you're wondering what these little white rocks are, that's called perlite. Perlite allows for airflow and water flow so that there's good drainage. Now some people will mix in a fertilizer or worm castings into their propagation mix, and that's a great thing that you can do to get really good nutrition for your plants from the beginning. This seedling mix will work really good though, and it already has worm castings and a fertilizer in there. So now I'm just going to kind of let it drop and see if there's any areas I can give a little bit more soil to. And you can just run your hand across the top, and that'll help to make it flat and real easy for you. Now the next step is to soak these, get them completely soaked all the way through to the bottom of the cell. Just like when we watered in our seeds, it's the same concept. You've got to keep your seeds wet the entire time to germinate. And investing in a nice water wand is a great idea. This thing is not the best. Okay, so now I can just dig down a little and check. Yeah, we're completely soaked. So the next step is we want to make little 1/2 inch holes for our seeds. So I like to use my finger and I just poke it down a little bit. And we're going to come at the end once we plant our seeds and put soil over the top. So just keep that in mind as you're poking your holes. So this is set up for most seeds now, 1/2 inch. So here's the way I like to approach planting and trying to decide how many cells I want to dedicate to each type of plant. I either like to separate them out by row here. So there's 12 here. So I could have 12 different types and get 6 of each type. Or I could do it vertically. Maybe I want a lot more of each plant. So I get 12 rows of 6 different types of plants. We have 9 different types of plants here. So I'm going to go for the 12 row spacing here. Now the other thing to keep in mind is how much of each plant you want. So something like a Swiss chard or a kale, you know, for a family of 4, if you have about 5 kale plants, that's going to be more than enough kale that you guys will be able to eat. And that's the same with your basil. You know, 5 to 10 plants max is what is the most that you're going to need. Oh, the bunching onions though, you'll need a lot of those. So I might dedicate 2 rows to the bunching onions. So I did forget one type of seeds, and this is going to be a lettuce blend. So we'll do 2 rows of that as well. But lettuce is really great because you can get a continual harvest and just harvest around the outside of the plant rather than harvesting the whole head. That's a great way to do it for home gardeners. So when doing the seeds, I like to pour it into one of my hands and then grab with my other hand and my 2 fingers and then just rub my fingers slowly back and forth and drop a couple of seeds in. For lettuce and any of these seeds, you want to put, you know, about 2 to 3 seeds per cell so that you can guarantee germination. And the beauty of starting them in a cell tray is that they're very easy to come back and thin to one plant, so you have a perfect large transplant ready to go out into your garden. So next we'll do the bunching onion. And a bunching onion is unique because you don't need to thin them. You can plant 3, 4, 5 all together. So when these sprout up, I'll just plant whatever's there. I'm not actually going to thin them. But the rest of these, like spinach, cilantro, Swiss chard, kale, tatsoi, all that we're going to go down to one plant. Now Swiss chard, this type of seed is called a germ seed. So inside of these, there's actually multiple seeds. So you really only need to do one. If you're real worried about it, you could do two. If you accidentally drop two, don't worry about that. Tatsoi is a type of, it's called Asian spinach. And for tatsoi, these seeds look identical to kale and broccoli seeds. So if you're not familiar with what these plants look like, it's a good idea to either label your seeds or space them out accordingly. So rather than putting my kale right next to the tatsoi, I'll put it way over here on this other side. That way, without labeling, I can know that they're different types of plants, and it will be easier to tell the difference for me. Next, we've got some herbs. So this is dill seed, and this is dill that I saved from plants that I grew from, I don't know, 3 years ago probably now. So a little bit older seed, I'll put a couple more seeds in there just because the germination rate will go down a bit. Cilantro, do 2 to 3 of these in there. Whoop. If you drop too many, don't worry about it. You can always thin them out. Spinach seed. And this is some Genovese basil. This is my favorite type of basil. The fragrance and the flavor is just the best. It's an Italian heirloom basil. And then the final, we're gonna do some sunflower seeds. These are also seeds that I saved. Like I said earlier, the sunflower seeds, I'm just gonna push them in deeper with my fingers here to make sure they have enough depth. And now all of this is ready to receive soil over the top. And you can just rub over the top to get it nice and even. Spread it out, just like that. And now the final step is just gonna be to water this. And then every single day, I'll come out and water these. In the summertime, you'll need to water probably twice a day, maybe even 3 times depending on the spot. You can even put this in partial shade in the beginning so that the soil doesn't dry out as quickly. So I'm gonna go put this probably under the pomegranate trees and then just water it every day until I see germination. So here we are about 7 days later. We can see the chard, the kale and the tatsoi are starting to sprout now, and even some of the lettuce seedlings here. So things are off to a real good start, and then the next week the rest of them will start sprouting. And I just wanted to mention a couple things about where I placed my seeds. I actually put them over here on this black plastic. All my farming stuff was covered up, and the black plastic attracted a lot of heat, and I kind of used that as a mock heat mat. So temperatures were in the high 60s, low 70s. I just wanted to try and heat up the seedlings a little bit more to help the germination process. That's another thing that you can do with seedlings, is you can get what's called a heat mat and put the heat mat underneath, so that if you have lower temperatures or if you're starting your seeds out in a much colder climate, the heat mat is gonna really help you get a better germination rate. And now I'm just gonna keep watering these once a day. I did skip 1 day of watering when it was just cloudy all day because I noticed they were plenty wet. And these will grow for about 2-3 weeks. Once the seedlings get, about yay tall and they have their true leaves, they will be ready to be planted. Another thing you can do to test to see if they're ready is if your cell tray has some deep enough holes, you can kind of poke them from underneath, or you can squeeze the side and grab from the base of the plant and pull the plant up and out, and you'll see how much roots that they have. They should have a good amount of roots developed before you plant them. And if the plant is tall enough and has good sized true leaves, then that'll be the case.